how hard did you push it till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, Municipals? This is Ashton and Big C. We haven't been on in a while, and we have two guests, two relatively new friends. Well, I guess one new friend. I've not actually met Jeff ever in person. Hopefully soon. Troy, I've met before, but we have Troy and Jeff from California Republic Golf with us on tonight. Guys, Troy, how's it going, my man?
Doing good. Hanging in there. Trying to get out on the course and take more photos.
Yeah. Also, how do you feel about Notre Dame right now? Sincerely, how do you feel about?
Not great.
Not.
Let's put it this way. Last weekend wasn't as bad as it was for you with Georgia, which I know that one hurt, but it hasn't been a good year. We started out good, and then we just totally fumbled, pun intended.
Yeah. Hey, with Georgia, I kind of got a different perspective. My whole life has been playoff misery. And 2021, the Braves, the team I care about the most, won a World Series, got back-to-back titles in Georgia. Like, one of the reasons I get really annoyed, Big Chris and I kind of mutually hate Giants fans. Sorry to our listeners, but they win three out of 5 World Series, and then are like, and 2 years later, like, I can't believe we suck. It's like, I mean, when you win 3 out of 5 World Series, you actually can't say anything for the rest of your life. Like, your sports meter is full forever. So, I mean, yeah, everyone kind of universally hates Alabama. Like, honestly, Florida State should have gone, but we've won back-to-back titles. It's all good. Although I will say, I was at a party. Chris, I haven't told this to you. I was at a Christmas party this weekend, and there was a girl who was slightly overserved who found out that I went to Georgia. Turns out she went to Alabama, and she called me a little bitch multiple times. And a fucking loser to my face. And so it was funny because all of our friends who are not used to SC football were like, that was kind of aggressive. I was like, this is the difference between Georgia and Alabama. Like, and I'm not saying it's because she's a woman. Like, I'm not going to I just would not use those terminologies on other people. And, she's like, what have you done? I'm like, well, first of all, I haven't done anything in either of you. Georgia won back-to-back titles, and I'm cool with that. But I'm just going to go eat some turkey and go over here. I'm not gonna like ramp this up any more than it needs to because it doesn't really matter. So that's what I have to say about that. But Jeff, how are you doing, my friend? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Very happy to join you guys and counting down the days until we get back on the golf course here. So looking forward to whatever the next time we get to loop it is.
I know. Yeah. And are you guys both in Southern California? Like for the listeners, where are kind of your location? Where do you guys play most of your golf? Just so people can kind of figure out who you are and where you play your golf.
So
we're both.
Go for it, Jeff.
I'm in Ventura, so I'm pretty local to the area. Grew up around here. Play a lot at Olivas and try and loop in Soul Park at least once every 4 to 6 weeks if we can get a time.
Yeah, and then I'm down in Santa Clarita, so that's like the northern part of LA County, right where Magic Mountain is for everybody that's in California and has been there. So I'm about 45 minutes from Ventura, Ojai. So I play most of my golf with Jeff. So it's heading out that direction, heading into Ojai, and then sometimes I'll head down into the LA basin, all those munis. But it's just so tough to get a tee time down there that it's easier to go towards the beach.
Yeah, and Soul Park is a pretty great place. I think we can all agree on. Big, before we get into the guests, how are you doing, my friend? It's been a second since we've talked. I love your for our this is not for our podcast listeners, but you're all blue. You kind of look like a blueberry boy, which I like. The different shades of blue.
Together. Had to rep Municipals and one of our favorite, I guess you call semi-private, not fully public. Past tiempo. It was just I just needed a hat to cover my horrendous hair that I need to get cut super bad. So it was more function over look than anything. But I've been good. Just grinding it out as dad. Baby had her first birthday, which was awesome. We did a Frank the Tank themed birthday, which was pretty awesome. She smashed her face into a beer mug cake. It was awesome. She got her first set of golf clubs, which is pretty awesome. Somebody got her your first ping putter, which they put her name on it and it's etched on there, and they'll extend it when she gets older. So that's pretty cool. But no golf out here at all. The winter has hit us pretty hard. So everything is soggy and gross, and it's been like 30, 38, 40 degrees. Everything's frozen over. Me and Bean, one of our good buddies and listener of the pod, and has been on the pod, we're going to be playing at Chapman at Wildwood on Saturday. So hopefully the weather holds up for us a little bit, because we're supposed to be teeing off at 9 a.m. It'll probably be more like 11 with a frost delay, but it's also a Northwest Golf Guys event, so I'm assuming we'll be done at 7 p.m. if we start at 11. Yeah. No offense, Zach and Trav, but you know how we feel about how your events can lag a little bit, especially if we get a little bit of delay.
Hitting cups, baby.
Hopefully Chapman keeps it moving a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, that's tough about the weather. I'm very sorry to tell you that on Thursday I am actually playing Pasta Tiempo. I'll be doing a pod because I think this week is the week it opens, the front nine. And a member said, "Anybody want to go play?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. That would be cool." So we'll report back. It's going to be 62 degrees playing Pasta Tiempo.
A little jealous.
Just saying that to piss you off, Chris. But that is not the point of this pod. Cool. Well, before we dive into kind of y'all's origin story, what we always like to do with new people, new guests, is really kind of talk about kind of your golf game. Because we've got some people who are like, I just, drink beer and hang out. Some people are like, I'm trying to compete for the Mid-Am. And I have no concept of kind of how you guys fall on that spectrum. So, Jeff, tell us a little about your golf game, just anything you want to share so people can kind of figure out you a little bit as a golfer.
Yeah, I have a competitive itch, but it doesn't extend beyond trying to take money off the guys in the group. I definitely enjoy playing the little money games, playing dots or skins or whatever, closies. I think the handicap's right around a 2 right now, but I always like to preface that by saying it's a 2 at my home course and probably about a 6 to 8 on the road. So definitely don't want to fall into that vanity capper territory, but at home there's definitely a home course advantage. But yeah, like I said, it usually hovers around a 2. I try not to take myself too seriously. Luckily, Troy's around to remind me not to do that, which sometimes happens when expectations is kind of the antithesis of fun, right? You start playing well and you expect to play well, and then something goes a little sideways, and all of a sudden you gotta avoid being moody and whiny, which Troy helps keep me out of that place pretty well.
Yeah, I mean,
if you just look at Troy's smile, I don't think that's possible.
I'll just make sure he's not.
Troy, what about you? You don't seem like a very whiny person.
Oh, I can be. I let's put it this way. There was 2 iterations of Troy playing golf. So when I first started golfing, my background is hockey, and like my temper was not good. Breaking clubs and being an idiot and being frustrated that I didn't break 100, and it was like, dude, you have no grasp on reality. So that took a couple years to get out of my system, and then I kind of just had an epiphany that like, hey, it really doesn't matter, and just go have fun. And ever since I figured that out, I started playing a lot better golf, ironically. And so right now I'm sitting, I think I just got my GIN email, and I just bumped up to a 7-1. I was down at like a 6-4, and then had some really bad rounds back to back to back, and dropped a couple scores. But I try and be competitive where I can. I mean, some of these guys they get a little frustrated when they have to give me strokes, but I usually give it back to them on some stupid mistake that cost me a hole or whatever.
And to paint the picture for playing golf with Troy, the guy he can move it, right? He's got, I don't know what your ball speed is, Troy, your swing speed, but, if he catches one, it's 3 bills plus. Now, obviously, the dispersion is something I'm sure he would love to work on, but, our golf games are kind of the opposite of each other, right? I mean, I'm 6'5", and I hit it 260 if I catch one, but I make up for it with the wedges, and Troy can bomb it, really good iron player. Unfortunately, he doesn't always know where the driver's going.
You guys
the driver.
It sounds very
screaming
familiar,
in my
Ashton. Actually, it sounds very similar to me and you. I wouldn't say you definitely have reeled it in a lot with the driver, but it was always the thing if I was playing a match against Ashton, is if I knew he blew it off the planet, I had the hole. Because my short game, iron game coming into any hole, I was most likely going to beat Ashton at that. But if he had 50 yards on me down the middle, Ashton was he was most likely, because he, for some reason, when it comes down to it, he will hit 15, 20 footers for birdies. Like, it's never an easy birdie for Ashton. It's always like a 15 footer, like with double break. It's never a tap in. That usually turns into a par.
Yeah, over 2 mountains.
We played a match play tournament, if you will, with a group of our weekend guys, which is usually somewhere in the range of 12 to 16 people. And Troy and I actually had to face each other in the second or third round. And recreational golf Troy is very different than match play golf Troy, because the total score doesn't count, right? Each hole is a new thing. And, I think at one point I had him 2 or 3 up on the front. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to chip in from over here, and I'm just going to hole out from over here. And it gets very frustrating. So he's actually a very difficult out in match play. And I think some of our friends will attest to that, because he will make birdies in bunches and he'll hole out. It basically feels like facing the entire European Ryder Cup team.
Yeah, I think that day I holed out 3 times on you in that round, and we took it to, didn't we go all the way to 18?
It took it to 18. I won one up on 18.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, that sounds a lot like Big. I mean, when Big short game is cooking, like Big, when you broke par
19 putts, 4 chip outs, and I shot a 69.
My God.
That tells you that I do not hit it far. I have a lot of hitting 3 in on par 5s and just hitting a lot of 15, 20 footers or chip ins. And, I can go low, but that's the one thing I think I need to improve on, is getting some distance back. Because I averaged right around, same as you, 240 to 260 off the tee. I'm not super long. If I can draw it, I can probably get it to roll out to 265, 270, but I'm not, that's on a very, very good strike. So, if I can even get to 10% less of what Ashton's at, I think we'd be pretty solid. Because when me and Ashton play matches, he plays from the back tees, I play 1-ups. That's how we make it even, where we don't give each other any strokes, and it works perfectly for the two of us, because it's between the two of our games, it's really just distance based. We're almost identical, other than him being able to hit it 40, 50 yards past me.
Yeah, with the ball roll.
What
back.
are you guys sitting at right now?
I'm at a 4. I think Ashton just dropped down below a 3. Oh, 3.
3.8. I've had a couple. You were talking about being mopey. I had a couple rounds where I just forgot I had hit an iron, and it turns out it's really hard to play golf when you forget. It's cool. It's a 330-yard hole. Let's hit a 5-iron down the middle and hit a wedge on the green, and hitting 140-yard blocks with your 5-iron. Golf becomes pretty hard when you forget the sequence of moving your body. It's oh yeah, I'm on my back foot trying to hit a 5-iron. I don't know why that I don't know where that came from. So yeah,
he was below a 3 probably about 3 months.
We'll see.
Ago, so I think, yeah.
Yeah, 2.9. 2.9 was my low this year. It was a good year of golf for sure. Yeah, taste the tubes. There you go.
What distance are you guys playing those courses
I would say
at?
you probably play on
course,
average
or-
between like 68 and 60, like 67 to 69, depending on what the course allows you to play at. I mean, he maxes out most courses that they can play in the Bay Area, which are probably around there. I would say I play anywhere between 63 and 66. That's where I like to feel very comfortable with my distance. Like we're very adamant about like people playing the tee boxes that relate to their distances. Like it's not fun for me playing from 69. It just isn't. Like I am guaranteed par bogey every par 5, and that just doesn't make golf fun at all.
You and I are fighting the same fight because every once in a while we'll get with a group of bombers and like, yeah, let's play it from the way backs. And it's like, okay, well, now I need a couple of strokes because I can't keep up. And
Yeah,
I'm not going to get
that's
in an arms
very
race with you
similar.
today.
And that's why usually, like, all of our buddies know, like, I'm a little bit shorter, so I usually play one up. And there's a couple of our friends that probably should do it as well, but nobody will, like, do it. And I don't have any. It does not hurt my soul or my feelings at all having to play one tee up to these guys.
No, that's why there's different tees. No, it's 100%. Cool. Well, either Jeff or Troy or both of you, I want to kind of throw the keys over to you guys. Like, you guys have an amazing Instagram, and I've kind of seen your kind of tagline of how you guys describe yourself. But could you tell us a little about California Republic Golf, how it came to be, how you all started this, what it means to you? Just kind of throwing you the keys to just kind of tell the story.
Go for it, Troy. You're more eloquent with this than I am, I think.
Even though I'm not the words man. So basically, kind of just had been throwing around the idea of trying to stretch some muscles in terms of creatively, and figure out a way to stretch myself. So Jeff has been a pretty prolific writer for a while, which I noticed that talent pretty much right off the bat. And just pitched the idea to him to start a golf blog about something we obviously both care about quite a bit. And then kind of reeled it in and got a mission statement and figured out what we wanted to do. So I would say our focus is about telling stories and talking about, for the most part, public golf, accessible golf in California, where we're at. Obviously being kind of in the central part of Southern California, we have a lot of stuff within just a couple hours, but also trying to look at some of the goat tracks and look at some of the off the beaten stuff, or even the weird little par 3 that's in like a neighborhood, and, see what we can find out about the place. So the goal is basically to kind of focus on those. And I took some inspiration from you guys in terms of like your focus being public golf. Obviously you guys are doing it with like a podcast type format. And so I wanted to see, can we do this with a little bit more of like written word, slowly thought out, and try and use some photography, which is my background, and bring some attention and detail to those stories and go from there. So that's kind of the gist of how it started. That was about a year ago that we kind of pitched the idea around, and have been kind of going from there.
Yeah, and I think, my background has always been attracted to story, right? And trying to figure out what's a story that creates a memory that obviously creates an emotional connection to people, place, or thing. And I think golf is so good at that because you have time. If you're playing an 18-hole course, it's at least 4 hours usually. You're going to be surrounded by people, or maybe you're by yourself and with your thoughts. And knowing that Troy is just a master at storytelling through the lens of a camera, it just gave me the motivation to want to do that, with a keyboard, and to really bring focus to what's accessible to us and to people that are probably in the same avenue as we are with their golf game and their interests. And so I think at the end of the day, it's what can we do to tell the story of an experience that we had that's going to be something that other people connect with.
Yeah, you guys kind of the story comes off very similar. Knowing the guys from the Fried Egg, you guys kind of come off very similar to kind of Andy and Garrett a little bit. Where Jeff, you are definitely more on the Garrett side of things. You know, storyteller, really likes to kind of dig deep and really tell the behind the scenes, you know, of what makes it great. And then, you know, Troy, you're kind of Andy out there, you know, displaying it through the lens, which I think is really cool because we really love the Fried Egg, and we take a lot of stuff that we do from them. They're one of our biggest inspirations. But I love the aspect of you guys taking a little bit from us in the public golf side of things. Because, I mean, if you try to search through different medians, it's really difficult to find a lot of people showcasing public golf. And I think it's a space that should be, you know, displayed more because 98% of golfers out there are public golfers. Like, they're, you know, not everybody can be a member at a golf club. Not everybody can afford it, but they also limit the amount of people that can join public or private courses. So it's, you know, a little bit of all of that. And I think there's just so much, you know, to kind of adventure out and experience in the public golf realm. And I mean, you guys have probably listened to the pod. I sought after a while back, you know, playing as many courses as I could through the West Coast and tackled the majority of the California courses. And there are a lot of stories we haven't even gotten to tell about some of the courses that I have played that I can't wait to be able to tell because there's just so much. I mean, California, basically from Bay Area down, it's ridiculous how much public accessible golf there is and how much good golf there is, especially between, you know, that's missed out, San Luis Obispo to Ojai. It's insane. If you just like go from the ocean to the border of California in that little section, nobody knows how good golf is in that area. Like, even in little places like Fresno.
Yep. Or even Bakersfield. I mean, Bakersfield is not really appealing to even drive through, you know? But there's actually some good
my
golf courses
wife's
there.
family's from Bakersfield, so of course I brought my clubs down there when we had to go visit her grandmother, and I played a couple really fun courses. The people that I met, very, very interesting, and that's a whole nother topic. But that would deter me from playing in Bakersfield. But the courses were actually pretty cool.
And that's the thing, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. If you come across somebody at that course, you're going to remember them. And it's why do you remember them? And I think that's the thing that, you know, I think for Troy and I, when we took our sort of maiden trip, it was not just what happens on the golf course, but the people you stumble into, you know, along the way and in between and everything. I think that's as much part of the story as what you scored. And sometimes it's even more important than what you scored because, you know, we're definitely capable of putting up some really bad scores that we want to forget about.
I mean, I don't even remember any of my scores really from any of our golf trips. I remember the things we experienced in the courses we played, but to be honest, if I look back, I don't remember any golf shot or, you know, anything other than just the time I spent with the guys that were on our trip. And that's the coolest thing about golf is it's not necessarily about how well you played, but about the experience that you have while you're out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I love the lens y'all are taking because, I mean, for us, like, it's definitely about public golf, and it's great to talk, you know, God, at this point, we've done, you know, 100+ episodes on a whole variety of stuff, but, I think our kind of like unofficial tagline is, it's about the golf, but it's not about the golf, which is kind of what you were saying, Jeff, because, I think where we've really got to, it's interesting we're having this chat because this will come out in the new year, but what we're kind of working on this month internally is, even though we've been doing this for several years, really trying to figure out like who we are and what that means. Because I think the big thing for us is we've continued to do this. What we've really realized is it really is about like, yeah, like I'm a, like, my golf game feels like it's in shambles and I'm playing Pasa. And like, as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about like what I need to work on tomorrow at the range so that I can play well. That's there. But it's really about, as we think about it, it's, we've talked a lot about how it's so hard to make friends as an adult, especially as an adult male, right? And just think about this, right? Like, I don't meet Troy on Instagram without golf. He comes to the cookout and like hangs out, right? And now we're on with you guys, and like, you guys are two new friends, right? And like, that is all through golf. And again, I'm not trying to act like that's a novel concept of like, Troy, I'm sure you've met people looking at like, camera lenses.
That's how
or whatever.
Jeff and I met. Yeah, I mean, it's literally how Jeff and I met. We both joined our no laying up roost down here for LoCal.
Yeah.
And it was, hey, dude, I have a tee time. That's how I got in. Like 3 weeks later, Jeff joined, and I had a spot, and I was like, hey, dude, come play with us. Now I talk to the guy every freaking day, and and like, and we have this little crew of just people that we met golfing, and they're very important in our lives. So it's funny how that all works out in the long run, and you never expected it to happen. But it's because of a dumb white ball that we chase around.
It's such a common thread through the golf world is, it's just how these like micro communities just form. Because before the Roost was even in existence, we were all members of a random golf club chat for San Francisco. And that's how we all met and went on our first trip and then started the podcast. And now we're, that was almost 4 years ago now, Ashton. I mean, it's been a minute. And, I've moved in and out of the Bay Area to back to the Pacific Northwest, back to the Bay Area, back to Pacific Northwest, and throughout this entire time. And we're going on our third iteration of our Soul Park tournament, the Cookout, adding our second tournament, the Crab Shack at Gara. It's cool. And the community that we've been able to kind of get and the group chat that we have going on for the Cookout, we literally, I'll put a little insight in on the chat. Like Ashton, we haven't been pushing out dates yet too much. Our buddy Bean had some flight credits he had to use by the end of the year, and me and Ashton are just dialing in dates and making sure it's good to go. And he's like, hey, do you guys have a date? Ashton goes, yes, we haven't announced it yet, but this is the actual date if anybody wants to start pre-booking. I would say 15 to 20 of our guys have booked flights and hotels within a 12-hour span and are basically ready to go for the Cookout, which isn't until May. So it's cool. It's really cool to see how many people really absolutely love what we've started. And, it feels great every year to show up in Ojai and do it again, all over again with the same group of guys.
Yeah.
Golf and friendship are so closely tied together. I mean, thinking back to that first round that I played with Troy and our buddy Tim, before we were heading down the first fairway, before I actually had a good handle on who Troy was and who Tim were, just even memorizing their names, that we're going to be friends, right? You feel that instantaneous click based off of your view of golf, what lens you look at it through, what it means to you, how you carry yourself on the golf course. I think one of the things that we found a lot is we get people, if we get paired up with a single, it's always, how long have you guys known each other? You guys must go way back. Well, not really. We play a lot of golf together, and so I think some friendships actually have to be measured in rounds of golf instead of time on a calendar because, like I said, you learn a lot about each other on the golf course, and it expedites that
Golf,
friendship
Yeah,
golf
process.
sounds
and I
like
mean,
dog years.
it's the one thing that me and Ashton
So
say all
true.
the time. It's like, it's not that, like, man, we haven't seen each other, man, we haven't talked to each other that much recently. It's, man, we haven't played golf in a while. And that's always, it's not that, it's like,
Totally.
we know we're gonna play golf when we meet each other. There's no just meeting up. There's gonna be golf involved. Unless he's up here for his 40th wedding in 1 year. But yeah, still brought the clubs.
I still brought the
But,
clubs.
Yeah, it's incredible what golf kind of does for us. But kind of getting back to that, we kind of want to talk about, like, what would you guys consider your home course? What course did you guys grow up playing? When did you start playing?
So I started playing when I was a kid, very sporadically. So my dad played, but I'm born and raised here in Santa Clarita, so Valencia. So I grew up going to Vista Valencia, home of our very own Max Homa. Um, and I just kind of putted around there when I was a kid. Totally got disinterested when I became a teen, and then I want to say I was like 20 something or early 20s, and figured out that a lot of things happen through golf, sales and all of that kind of stuff. So like maybe I should learn how to play this game. So really dove in, and then basically have gone from there. So Vista would technically be my home course. I practice there probably 3 or 4 times a week. But I would say that between Soul Park and then Olivis, which is in Ventura, Oxnard area, those are the two that like we play all the time, if we can, once a weekend, if not twice a weekend, kind of thing. Because they're just both so solid.
Yeah, my home course. I grew up in a small town, probably about, I guess, 45 minutes from LA, little town called Santa Paula, just a little bit off the coast. And there was a course in town, but there was another course called Elkins Ranch that was in the city of Fillmore that was about 10 minutes away. And the pros there and the people that worked in the shop, they were so hospitable to me that became my summer daycare. So I think the first time I touched the golf club, I was probably between 5 and 6 years old while my dad was on the range getting a lesson. And, he would kind of bring me over there and then, talk about public golf and accessibility for everybody. I mean, this golf course, they had a junior program. They would do clinics on Saturdays during the summer. And so that became my summer daycare, if you will, was getting dropped off at the golf course at 6:30, 7 a.m. before my parents went to work, and getting picked up at 7 o'clock or whenever it was dark. Unfortunately, that course no longer exists, so I've adopted Levis as my home course now. Like I said, I love to sprinkle in Soul Park, but it's always been about the ties of the people since I was a kid. And one of my really good friends works at Levis, and he's part of the reason why I love to frequent that place, and just the people that you meet, right? No matter where it's at, whether it's a restaurant or your coffee shop or your golf course, if you have a good connection to those people, it's very easy to accept that place as your home.
It's super interesting how, like, Jeff's story is very similar to mine, and your golf game is very similar to mine, because it was very similar. Like, my daycare was Prune Ridge Golf Club in Santa Clara. It was from the age of 9. I basically watched Tiger win the Masters, and in the late 90s, and I asked my dad for a set of golf clubs, and from that day on, I was at the golf course every single day for the junior clinics they had every Saturday and Sunday, and I was practice putting and chipping after school every day, 5 days a week, basically all through high school and middle school. So, and Ashton played a lot after after baseball practice when he was younger in his baseball cleats out in Atlanta, and then kind of fell kind of out of love with it a little bit, towards kind of end of high school into college, and then refound the game again, and kind of that linked his love with his dad as well. So
Yeah, yeah. There's something about having a dad who's like. Think about this for a second. I actually asked him this recently. My whole life, he's been between a 0 and a 2. I'm 31 years old, so it's like very cool, but it's also like infuriating because I don't know. It's one of those moments where you play your dad, and it's like you birdie the first hole, and it's like, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not gonna like beat him today, Like I beat him in May for the first time. Did he have like a wonky driver? Like, was he having equipment issues? Who could possibly say? But yeah, so it's one of those things where like playing with him was both cool but also like infuriating because like he was just like a metronome of consistency. But yeah, but I mean, I'm resonating with what y'all are saying because I definitely remember. I think it was 7th grade when I really kind of got the bug, and I remember that like I think it was called North Fulton Golf Course, and it was $450. They give you a little laminated card as a junior, and you could play all you wanted. Just go spend my days there, and I remember at the time I was super into Mojo golf balls. You guys remember those? Those Nike Mojos that were like kind of like sprinkle, or the kind of there was like glitter in the white part. And just I remember just like going around and around and around and around and around. And yeah, Chris, like you said, it's like I remember playing fall baseball, and I'd be ready for the game to wrap up so I could go play 9 holes in my baseball uniform, and that's kind of when I really fell in love. Granted, going to high school was a bit tough because my freshman year, I didn't make the team. I was on the JV team. Derek Chang, he was a senior. He was going to Minnesota. He shot 65 in the state championship. Went to Minnesota, transferred to Augusta State, and won national championship with Patrick Reed. To be clear, Derek Chang is a nice person and not a scumbag, but to show you the people I was playing with, I was like, I've like broken 80 like once, and it's like, Derek Chang's out shooting 65 in the state championship, and I'm like, wow, like I can't even comprehend that. I still can't comprehend that. Like I've broken par once, but it's like 65 at a competitive event. Like it's a different gear, different threshold. But like y'all are saying, that feeling of like, man, like chasing daylight in the summer with your friends, and just like you the sun goes down, you go home, you play Tiger Woods, and then you come home and do it again, and like you just think the next day is going to be that day. Oh God, those are like some of my most fond memories. And that's how I feel like we're doing now, right? In a very different way as adults. These golf trips, these were going on. We're sort of kind of capturing that magic a little bit in a way that I don't know, still makes me really happy. But I'm curious, guys, to kind of a couple more topics here. So obviously you've been doing this for a year. Troy, you said it was about a year kind of for the mandate. So in your first year doing California Republic, what has worked well for you guys? Like, what are the things you feel like you really nailed? And then I'm also just kind of curious, like, as you kind of head into a new year for you guys, how might year 2 look a little bit different, or things you're trying to evolve? Like, how are you guys trying to think about evolving California Republic in year 2?
So I would say in terms of the past year, in terms of what's worked well, I mean, obviously you're going to get a majority of traction through Instagram. It's really where everybody, at least starts in terms of content, right? Mm-hmm. Most stuff you're finding out about on Instagram. So that's obviously a pretty major driver for us. But the focus for us is also like, let's get the website up and running. Let's get the blog going. Like, we want to continue to kind of focus on what's important to us, and the people that are going to follow are going to be, they're going to be like-minded people. Like, Jeff and I talk about it pretty regularly in terms of like not trying to just chase the algorithm and figure all of that madness out. That if it's something that we think is subpar for what we think our quality is, then let's figure out a different way to do it. or, pitch it or not use it, so that's kind of been the first year of just kind of finding our footing, creating a little bit of an idea of what we are. And then kind of going from there. The next year, I think we're going to be focusing on probably doing a couple of trips. This year we just kind of had a lot of life stuff both come up for us. So that delayed some of the ability to do some trips and whatnot, like we probably would have liked to. I mean, I would have loved to do one like once a month, but I don't think that's reality, financially. But just finding ways to make it happen, or just being purposeful. And that was, even kind of from the get-go in terms of like our mission statement and making it so that way we're stretching ourselves. It was also like, hey, this is an excuse to like not go play the same 2 courses all the time. Like now we got to force ourselves to do it. It's like getting a gym membership that you got to pay for, so that's why you're going to go to the gym. It's basically the same kind of thing of like, okay, now we're putting our name on it. Let's freaking go figure it out. So, yeah, I mean, that's more or less kind of this year and what we're looking into next year.
I think a lot of it too is the first year's been great for building relationships. I mean, for us to be able to come on your pod and just have this conversation and obviously get to know each other through this medium. I think that's part of what we've done well this first year is just be open, right? And open to connecting to people and being curious, I think is always a great thing, right? Learning what other people are doing, what works for them. I think a lot of learning who other people are helps us reflect on who we are and who we aren't, what we want to do, what we don't want to do. I think Troy hit the nail on the head. Having that mission statement to start, I think, was invaluable because it gives us something to reflect back on so that we know that whatever we're doing, it fits our ethos, it fits who we are and what we want California Republic Golf to be. Because there are times where you might see something that looks trendy or fun or, have a harebrained idea, and Troy's very good at reeling me back in and saying, let's take a second, let's figure out if this really fits with what we're trying to do and kind of slow things down and make sure it makes sense for us. So I think that's been a big part of our dynamic, is making sure that whatever we put out there feels like a fit for us and what we want to do long term.
Yeah. And I think that's... I think too, like just to add to that, we're also not like a brand. I'm not trying to make t-shirts. And so this is something where, I think kind of like for you guys, like for Municipals, like it's a pet project that you take very seriously, like that you treat as a brand, but I'm also not trying to like make $1 million tomorrow doing it.
Yeah.
So the flexibility of that and it gives you the ability to say no, like, or like, I don't think that's interesting. Let's not do that because it doesn't represent us. Compared to like chasing a paycheck, like no offense to the good guys, but like we can go do a course vlog and put tracers, and you do it enough with the right algorithm, like you're going to get people, you're going to get eyeballs. And ultimately when it comes to dollars, eyeballs are everything. So, we're trying just not to fall so much into that pit of despair,
Yeah, no, man. I mean, it's hard. I mean, that's the biggest thing that we were every year we kind of doing. Well, I guess every year it's our third year, but we just did kind of an end of year recap, and I think that's what's really hard is we're very proud of, especially this year. I think we're really proud of the podcast that we've done and some of the conversations that we've had. But I think the hard part about the world that we're in is, and I even said this on that pod, how you get found is, I mean, unless we're going to get Tiger to come on and talk about be like, oh, yeah, like the public golf in the Bahamas. Like, he's not going to do that, right? Like, we're not going to get Tiger to come on this podcast. It's going to be through Instagram, right? But how do you post things that are authentic, but not like thirsty? How does that tie in? It's hard. It's because, I mean, like, ultimately we want people to listen to our podcast and the conversations we've had with one of Chris's buddies who's like a superintendent of a 9-hole golf course doing awesome work. Like, that's a conversation that needs to be heard. But like, do you do top tracer stuff to get people there? It's hard, right? Because realistically, that podcast is not just going to get picked up because it's so specific. But to your point, I think what we have felt is exactly what you said. Like, this is not our job. This is a project. And we're trying to keep it authentic to who we are and what we want this to be. And the very, because I've even had people in my personal life, like when it comes out that I have a podcast, I get very hand wavy, but they're like, oh, like, if you thought of making it bigger, it's like, well, it's sort of intentionally niche, right? Like, it's this thing for a reason. Like, I'm not trying to, like, you want to hear me talk about Scotty Scheffler? Like, I can, but that's probably not why you're coming here. There's other people to do that for. So I appreciate the authenticity y'all have gone for. And honestly, I think an area for us, even though we're in our third year, I think it's probably time for us to do kind of a true mission statement, because there's a lot of things we've talked about where it's about the golf and not about the golf. It's about some of this stuff, but like, who do we really want to be and how do we kind of center around that is something that I think we're still trying to explore. And I give you guys kudos for starting there, because it kind of really helps ground you in a way that I think is very admirable.
Yeah, I think it also relates to kind of the people who we relate to and kind of take some stuff from. I mean, you guys are members of a No Laying Up group down there, and like you kind of said, there's no hatred towards the good guys or what those type of people are doing, but there's a reason we all gravitate to what No Laying Up puts out as their product. Like, there's a reason we all gravitate towards the fried egg stuff. Is they're not out there doing a shot by shot tracer. I mean, we all know No Laying Up has some videos out there. They have their paid sponsors they have to appease at some points, but the majority of the stuff we all love, like the Strapped series and their Taurus sauce and stuff, it's more about the people and the places and not necessarily about the golf. Like, they're displaying them playing golf, but it's about the experience more than it is anything. And I mean, you watch any of the newer No Laying Up stuff and it's less golf now. Yeah, it's a lot less golf now and way more about the environment and the people and what makes golf thrive in those areas and what makes people love the game in those places. And I think that's what brings all four of us to this game more than anything, and strive to kind of do what we want to do. And that's why I don't mind being this small little niche in the golf landscape, because I enjoy talking about what I love and what I play and what makes me excited. And I could tell that's kind of what draws you guys to do what you're doing as well with the California Republic Golf.
Yeah, to me, the most perfect example of like niche podcast is Chasing Scratch. Those guys, like they could care less if that thing stopped tomorrow. They would still be on a Zoom call talking just mad crap to each other the whole time. Like, that's the perfect example. And I think that was even something that I just also kind of looked to of like, these guys are just super genuine. Why can't we be super genuine? Just, that's our backbone, and ride that. And if people like it, they like it. If they don't, like, great, man, go find something else that you like. It's totally fine. You don't have to like anything that we do at all. It's totally fine.
Yeah. And then even finding your niche within that, because we even talked about, like, we really like doing the podcast, but I'm sure y'all find this at times with your writing and your photography is like, we were going weekly and like, dude, it was brutal. I mean, just like trying to like live our lives, and Chris didn't have a kid at that point, just like trying to like go to the gym and have a partner, and like, it's like, fuck, we got to record.
Well, getting something to talk about again, week in and week out. When you're doing stuff, where you're talking about the PGA, and there's an event every week, and there's something to talk about. But for us, it's literally, what course are we? I didn't play any new courses last week. What course are we going to talk about? We can't talk about the same Muni that we've talked about 6 or 7 times again. So it got monotonous, and then we decided going to the bi-weekly, it's more quality over quantity. And so that's, I think, what we strived for this year, and we achieved pretty damn well, having much more quality episodes about things that we really love to talk about, instead of, let's do a course review of a course that Chris played 7 months ago and barely remembers, and we got to pull up all the pictures so that I can remind myself hole by hole.
When I asked Chris, there was sort of like a script we had, and when I asked him, I think he talked about 2 or 3 courses, and I asked him what his favorite hole was, and 3 times in a row he said, "To be honest, I can't really remember." I was like, we're off the rails. Like, if you can't tell me a favorite hole and describe it, like, I think we should probably adjust this. But the point of bringing that up is just to say that, like, we like the podcast, and I think we'll keep doing it, obviously, but we're like, I think we really enjoy it as more of like the events, right? And I think the other thing too is understanding like how you guys will evolve, right? Like year 1, writing and photography, right? But when we fire up this pod 2 years from now, you guys might have evolved, right? Like, Jeff, you may be having your writing itch in a different direction, or Troy, you may go like, yo, I love photos, but now I'm really into video, whatever, right? But that's kind of the nice part about this. You said genuine, right? Like, it's authentic to what matters to you. And then 2, allowing it to breathe. Those are huge, because the biggest thing, I think, that like when we talked to Tron for the first time, and we had like, it was like 3 months in, he told us it's all about consistency, right? Just make, like, even if your cadence is, Jeff's like, I'm going to post, once every 3 months. That's fine. But just make sure that it's once every 3 months, because if it's inconsistent, then that's when you kind of get off the rails. It's like, hey, we're actually going to stick to this. We're going to run all the way through the finish line, and just show people that, like, we're not just here for the sugar rush of, like, let's post a couple pictures and this account just kind of dies. Like, it's going to be kind of slow burn. We're figuring it out. But, we're here to really kind of resonate with what actually matters to us, right?
And talking about things that we'd love to improve on next year, I mean, I would love to get more content on the blog out in a more expedited fashion. But, man, writer's block can be a bitch sometimes. I think that's the easiest way to put it is, there's, like you mentioned, you go and you play the golf course and you're somewhere between trying to tell a story in your head and focusing on your own game. And you might jot down some notes here or there. Or you might have a thought that, flutters in between your ears during the round. But getting back to real life after the round and going to work and coming home and going grocery shopping and, going on a run, whatever it is, those things, they tend to fade if you don't nurture them. And so I'm sure Troy would appreciate it if I was a little bit quicker with the writing. I know I would love to do a better job with it as far as getting those things out. But, I think he and I both have levels of perfectionism to our personalities where we want it to be great, right? Okay is fine, but if we're really going to put something that's a piece of us, it's authentic to us, and is as important as golf is in our lives, we want it to be a true reflection of what, how much of a priority it is.
Well, and even with that too, like, even just taking the opportunity, like the first story that we really dropped was the story of playing persimmons at Olivas. Like, probably played there 250 times in my life. Like, I've played there a million times over and over and over again. But then, because Jeff was struggling and I was feeling frisky, I was like, hey man, let's take out some persimmons and let's go see what happens and play the white tees and, fool around. And we had a great day, and Jeff found his game again somehow, miraculously. And, it was everything we needed. But the story was the kicker there. Like, that was the backbone of it, even kind of as happenstance. It was something where we could really look back and go, okay, why did we do that? Like, why did we pull persimmons instead of try and go shoot our career low on the course that we played a million times over and blah, 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 blah. No, let's go have fun. Like, the fun part is actually the most important part. So let's figure that out again. And then we can write the story about it. And it turned out great and people loved it. And, that's what we want to figure out and hone in on versus, just telling the same thing like always.
Speaking of that, I don't know why this kind of. I'm not gonna try to roast him, but on our first trip, where me and Ashton and Jack all met, we had a friend come with us on this trip, and he last minute invited another friend who was going to basically document the entirety of this trip. And none of us met any of each other. So it was the first time all four of us were meeting, first time that this guy's friend was meeting us as well. So it was all new. Long story short, we never saw the footage ever. Basically, that one, I wouldn't even technically consider him a super close friend anymore, because I don't even think me and Ashton communicate with him at all anymore. You do. I
do. But
yeah. Anyways,
this is your story, not mine.
He lost contact with his friend. They had a whole falling out. We have lost the footage. We've never seen it. We've never even seen a picture from it. But just talking with you guys and being story creators, I think a good and fun collab would be because the funny thing is, it was in your guys' area, was our first trip. So it was Monarch Dunes, Sandpiper, Cypress Ridge, and Soul Park
Ridge
was the 4 courses we played.
No, we didn't play Soul Park on that trip. That
was with
with
Hussey and Jack.
But that doesn't
Didn't
matter.
you guys play
What
like
was-
LP or something?
No, what? So it was
No.
those 3. What was the 4th one we played on the first trip?
Sandpiper, Monarch Dunes, Cypress Ridge.
Rustic.
And,
That's what it was.
Rustic.
But it would be incredible to collab with you guys and recreate that trip and have you guys on it to, work with Pax, our videographer, and kind of do like kind of a collaboration trip and just recreate and play all of those courses again. And I don't know.
Dude, Cypress Ridge just ripped my throat out. Like, those greens just... I never forget, like, I had a pitching wedge into the first green, just barely lands over the bunker, almost rolls off the back, and then 3-putt. That was pretty much the day in a nutshell. Peter Jacobson just ripped my heart out that day.
Cypress Ridge was probably the roughest out of all of them, but that was such a... Yeah.
Hey, play better. I mean, I liked the course. I was just like, you suck. You got to get better. Like, Peter Jacobson's asking very specific questions that you need to answer.
We were very lucky. We were able to play it on our what we were calling our Central Coast swing. But our buddy Alex, who hosted us for that trip, I mean, he lives literally down the street from the course. So we got to see the course, but we had some local knowledge that really made it probably a little more fun than what you experienced, because we kind of knew where not to hit it, even if we still hit it there.
It's a great course.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my game didn't help my game at all, but yeah, I had a great time.
I just remember after I went to go pee, and I kind of, I guess I was kind of shell shocked, and the guy at the front goes, he kind of looks like the guy who plays Green Goblin. He goes like, "Did you have fun?" And I was like, yeah. I was like, the greens were fast. He goes, "They're rolling 14." I was like, it's a public golf course. Like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't like the Olympic Club, like, greens committee. Like, what are we doing? Like, as an advocate for public golf, I don't think we need 14 on
World Burn.
Yeah, like, Jesus. Like, 14, I don't think we need that in a public golf course. Like, 6-hour rounds.
Well, fellas,
like,
let's end it here. So, tell us about a big trip you guys got planned next year, and then also tell us about a dream trip you guys have planned.
I would love to do a trip up to the Bay Area. So I've gotten to play some golf up there. I mean, like, Presidio's just stupid good for it being a public course, and it's what I think non-residents like $110 on a Saturday morning. Like that's pretty ridiculous for public golf. So that would probably be my my go-to is try and get up to the Bay Area, go crash on Ashton's couch for a weekend, and try and do some of that, because like I haven't played Peacock or any of those courses around you guys that everybody raves about. So try and find those soul like courses up by you, and then dream trip in California. Obviously, I think it would be to do like Pebble. I mean, that's the pinnacle of public golf. Probably financially more attainable would be
Poppy's
I
a
don't
good
know.
second.
I mean, I think we have so much. Yeah, I'd probably do like a Monterey, but do Pasa, do some of the more not hoity-toity, but the Monterey area.
I think if Troy's going to go north, I'm mandated to go south. So just because I haven't played it yet, and please forgive me for this, but I haven't been to Goat Hill Park yet. So I think I'd probably throw something going south from Oceanside and Goat Hill, San Clemente, maybe round it out with Torrey or Coronado, see how far south we can get. I think that would be a lot of fun. As far as a dream trip, it's kind of tough to keep it in California. I would obviously love to do Pinehurst as an ultimate dream type trip, but I think something more attainable, kind of like doing a Ken Hunter trail with Sandpiper, La Purisima, Hunter Ranch. I think I've played 2 out of those 3, and I think doing them successfully.
If I could give you guys a little insight on what a good trip for you guys to do, and I don't think anybody's really showcased it, it would be Auburn, California, near just above Sacramento, to Tahoe. The golf, Grizzly Ranch. I mean, the courses in Auburn. There's so many good courses up there, and nobody has showcased those. I mean, just Auburn alone. I mean, the 2 courses Ashton has played with me in Auburn, Dark Horse and the Ridge. I mean, both amazing golf course that nobody talks about.
I got to play Dark. I played Dark Horse last October.
It's incredible golf course.
Awesome.
I mean, we have our hang-ups about Dark Horse, but conditions and layout of Dark Horse are just astronomical. And I mean, you could basically travel all the way up before you get to the Nevada border, and I think that there's just endless amounts of good golf up that way. So, I mean, Alta Sierra is another course that nobody has ever heard of, and it's just north of Dark Horse, and it's an old country club turned into a public course, and it's awesome. It's one of my favorite courses, and it's $40 with a cart, $35 walking.
There's a lot to explore. I think that's the point for all of us. There's a lot to explore and a lot to talk about. And but guys, thank you so much. I mean, I know this was kind of a meandering conversation, but I have a feeling this is not the last time we'll talk on a podcast. Hopefully, it's not the last time we're going to talk in general. And the biggest thing is it's just, again, like we kind of said, it's really special to kind of just come across people who are very similar people, have very similar interests. And I mean, obviously a lot of people like public golf in California, but hopefully we can really kind of continue to be advocates and really kind of highlight some of these places, or, you guys saying like playing persimmons, like there's a lot of different ways to consume golf, and just really having people understand that, like, as much fun as it could be to like play it back and shoot a number, that's one of 1,000 different options to do, right? So appreciate the work you guys are doing, and really appreciate you guys coming on and talking to us.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure speaking to you guys.
Cool. Hopefully, I mean, see you guys in, maybe sooner, but hopefully see you guys in Ventura sometime soon.
We got to get a 2-ball.
Hey,
2-man best ball.
Totally.
We're
totally
thinking. So me and a buddy up here are thinking of coming down to the Bay Area sometime beginning of February, end of January, because Golden Gate Park is opening. So I don't know. We'll have to stay in conversation and see if I need to get out of this rain. I need some golf.
Well, hopefully see you guys on the course soon, okay?
Yeah,
Looking forward
sounds
to it.
good, guys.
Peace.